Yeah, hi everyone. It's Billy here again from 47 Wolves. All I am. I hope you're all well. Welcome back, Martin from Arcanum Vita. Welcome, Martin.
Hey Billy, thanks for having us. Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah.
Hope life's been treating you well.
Yes, absolutely. No, going well. Yeah, easing into the latter part of the year. We've only got a couple of weeks to go, and yeah, so
Yeah, Christmas
as
is
it is for
upon us.
everybody, it's probably a hectic time of the year, but hopefully we can all get that time through between Christmas and New Year to relax and spend time with family and friends, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's
always
the aim. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's it. That's the trick. Take it easy, enjoy the festivities, and enjoy the season, and yeah, make the most of the energetics of the time rather than getting too caught up in the chaos of the times. I guess. Yeah, no,
That's it.
it
That's it.
flies, doesn't it? The year flies, and I
It
mean
certainly
we're
does.
heading up to Capricorn. That's basically the Capricorn new moon. Essentially, Christmas time is the Capricorn new moon. If you look at I guess the history of it too, it's interesting. Going back into the old sort of paganistic terms of it and that type of thing. Capricorn, from the northern hemisphere point of view, is the time of the winter solstice. So if you look at the old festivities, like even the Roman Empire and all that type of thing, they looked at Saturn. It was Saturnalia was the festival of Christmas, but essentially it's a time in the north where the day length starts getting longer. For us here, it's obviously we're at high summer, and it's midsummer, and the summer solstice on the 21st, 22nd, that type of thing. But if you think of it from the northern hemisphere tradition, the birth of the sun was Christmas, and I mean, or Saturn's time of Capricorn, but essentially, yeah, I think if you look at it where it correlates in all traditions, we've got that sort of celebration of the reemergence of life, and the bounty of emerging from a period of coldness and hardness and that type of thing. But I suppose it's just a northern tradition versus us here, where we're far from coming out of the darkness. We're sort of probably kicking back in the shade, trying to keep cool when the sun's vertical over us at its full expression, I guess, Billy. But yeah, it's a nice time. It's just I like Christmas. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's a beautiful time of the year. Yeah, absolutely, and it
yeah.
does. Yeah, if you've got the chance to, yeah, slow down and you might sort of elaborate a bit more from an astrological point of view, Martin. But yeah, so yeah, like you said, we're talking about the new moon of Cancer coming up on I think it's the 31st of December, our
Yeah, that's it. Yep,
down here in the southern hemisphere. So,
totally. Yeah. So
what's
31st of December, Capricorn new moon, 9 degrees of Capricorn. So it's I guess the ninth degree is a Jupiter degree, or a higher, sort of that of bringing in higher knowledge and that type of thing. And Capricorn, I guess, Capricorn energetically represents, I guess, our structures, and in the mundane world, it's our organizations and our governments and our structure, and I guess the overall mindset of the world, and just the way things are organized and ordered comes under the energy of Capricorn. So if you look at it coming in a new moon at 9 degrees of Capricorn, we might be looking at sort of reappraising the structures in our world, or re-looking at the structures of our world. Maybe Jupiter sort of represents justice, it represents higher knowledge. We might even find that there'll be structural changes from our perspective to do with foreign countries or foreign cultures, and that type of thing, or making sort of reference to those. But essentially, just to look at that ninth degree in Capricorn, for all of us, it's probably an energetic or a moon phase where we might start to re-look at the structure of our world, and take on any new inspiration or new ideas, and hopefully enjoy a little bit of justice, long overweighted justice to do with government or authority, or things like that. I mean, it's just it's interesting in the world. We can see with, say, America in its final days of transiting into the new system or the new way of things is going to very much play out under this moon. So seeing new orders and new kind of taking undergoings and things taking place. But that's just probably more on an overt view. But even in our own day-to-day life, or even in our own societies, there'll be this energy probably suggesting to us how we might appreciate better or operate better within the structures of our life and that type of thing. So it's an interesting new moon, and yeah, it's also lucky too. You know, Jupiter brings a bit of luck and a bit of good tidings and a bit of I don't know, bit of benefit, and it's quite an optimistic energy. You know, Saturn's and Capricorn is always a little bit dry and stale and a bit rigid and boring, but with that flavor in there, there could be a bit of optimism involved and a bit of luck and blessings in there, which is always good around Christmas. So yeah, it's a nice flavor in that way too, Billy.
Absolutely, and it's very apt that
Yeah,
Capricorn is this time of the year because of the the whole New Year's Eve and people making their resolutions, setting new goals, and that sort of thing seems to be very
absolutely.
appropriate.
That's it. Well, it's right on New Year's Eve, the new moon. I mean, what a classic new moon. You know, kick into the new year right on the new moon in Capricorn to set new vision. You know, Sagittarius rules vision and optimism and worldview and looking in an expansive way into the future. So essentially, the timing of this too is quite quite lovely too. That on New Year's Eve will, while it'll be a very probably a very balsamic lead up to New Year's Eve's celebrations and Christmas itself, the 25th and, Boxing Day, Christmas, that, it sort of brings us into that, leading into that balsamic phase or that last quarter of the current moon. But, in that quietness or in that sort of point of reflection, we'll be coming into New Year's Eve ready to hit the new year with a bit of a bang. So, it's probably is a very, as far as a setting or a mental orientation, into the season, it is a quiet time. It's a time of reflection, a time of looking back over things, to do with the timing of the moon, to really take stock and, look at what the year represents, look at the structures, what you've built this year, pat yourself on the back, kind of what am I going to take forward and how can I, recognize where I stand now and how do I apply new vision and new optimism to that in a way where I can hit the new year running, I guess. Yeah, it is good like that.
That's fantastic, yeah. And like you say, with that balsamic period just leading up to the new moon, generally speaking, throughout the year, we're sort of still working, we're still busy,
Mm.
busy, busy. So to pause
Yep.
is probably more challenging. But for a lot of people anyway, will literally not be working, so they'll have that time to, like you
Yep.
said, reflect on the year. What have they learnt? How have we grown? And then
Yep.
what lessons have we learnt this year? This year's been quite challenging for a lot of people. From my people I've spoke to on all different paths, but there is a new
Absolutely.
optimism. It feels like energetically moving into 2025. And
Yep.
as we've discussed previously, the the potentials are there astrologically, but it's up to each individual. It's up to us to make that happen, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
perfect
Well,
timing.
even the last moon, the moon, we're speaking now in the sort of, well, pretty much it's full moon now for the Sagittarius moon, but like the last moon, in this Sagittarius moon that we're in, that's going to lead into the Capricorn moon, that is that sort of Sagittarian flavor, bringing vision, bringing that sort of Jovian Jupiter type expansive view into things. But it's interesting too that this new moon that we're in now is also at the ninth degree. So we're getting this double dose of the ninth degree, which is again, I think, I see Jupiter having a very strong hand in our times at the moment, like where it really is about our worldview and our beliefs and looking at the way we look at things and even again justice and balance and setting things right and all that type of thing is sort of very much being resonated through these moons. They've got their challenges, obviously, like even this new moon in Capricorn, it is quite challenged, like it's got this I guess if you look at it, I guess in its nature, Saturn forms, the ruler of Capricorn forms a really interesting T square with Mercury in Sagittarius and Jupiter in Gemini. So those two planets are kind of in mutual reception. So when it comes to thoughts and our thinking and our communication and our beliefs and the way we articulate ourselves, the way we even dare to dream, or the way we dare to kind of run our thought processes, it's really going to be brought into light too. There'll be a bit of a compressive effect around our thinking or the way we see it or the way we think about things. But in a way too, it's a bit of a call to maturity. It's a call to, put a lot of this stuff into action, or, sort of back ourselves or put ourselves, into a position where we are our own authority in some ways. Like, we take responsibility for our own lives and what we say and what we do, and how it turns out too. So, but in saying that, there is tension in this new moon on that level of, speaking, thinking, communication, beliefs, and that type of stuff. So, when it comes to Christmas and even travel plans, literally, like if you're going overseas for argument's sake, or short distances, both of those, Mercury and Jupiter in Gemini and Sag, very strongly travel based, or journey based, and with Saturn in aspect to that, in a challenging aspect to it, just be a bit flexible with your travel plans, or, make sure you've got a contingency, or, give yourself plenty of time. If you've got to go to the airport, allow an extra hour or so, or what, however long you need. But like, do be aware that there is this, when it comes to movement or articulation or commerce or things like that, there's Saturn sort of sitting in a position of challenge to that in this moon. So, it's just to be aware of that. But the end of the day, if you slow down, Saturn always wants us to slow down. Saturn always wants us to take our time and be methodical and be step by step and put the effort in and those types of things. So, a slow, steady, metered approach is a good way to sort of balance out that energy, I think. And yeah, just to be aware of that too, Billy. Yeah.
No, it's a great tip, and even with that Capricornian energy of, with the goal setting and setting intentions, just sort of taking your time and being patient with it. Capricorn is sort of very methodical, so just be don't rush into anything. Would that be fair to say? Just take your time and
absolutely. That's what I'm feeling with that. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I feel with that aspect. It's you could really get frustrated or caught up, or, you could, if you're trying to do things in a knee-jerk fashion or do them off the cuff or be too sort of overly spontaneous or that type of thing, there's that little Saturnian reminder in there just to, sort of, be mindful of the structure of things, or be mindful of the, step-by-step approach. So, just if you've got your plans, or if you organize things well and have everything set out and just do it in a step-by-step way, I think the lesson of this energy is to sort of show us that, structure and expansion can work together. Like it's rather than getting too big too quick, if you kind of allow that sort of push-pull effect, go a little bit, expand a little bit, work a little bit, expand a little bit. It's that sort of push-pull energy that's very much at work in this T-square. And, I guess, through understanding that, it'll be less easy, I guess, to get dragged into, conflicts around, hot-headedness or overreaction, or, that type of, kind of sudden heated type expansive energy meeting a resistance. So it is, just to be aware of that. I guess you're right, Billy. Take it easy, take it step by step.
Yeah. So I just love how the astrology sort of fits. There's so many life lessons in there, Martin, as well. Like the taking it easy, setting your plans, not being so reactive, just being aware that and just slow and steady wins the race, as they say, and being flexible. So go ahead,
Absolutely.
set your goals, and quite often, even in this holiday period, we don't have to be rush around and trying to get everything out of the day. If we can slow down a little bit, we'll find the enjoyment. We'll find the everything runs a lot smoother. If we've got that, if we haven't penned in every minute of the day to because that's not fulfilling, really.
Nope.
Set your goals for your holidays, for example, but have some freedom and some flexibility in there for some downtime.
Absolutely, like don't sort of try and push the envelope too much, with this energy or this moon. Like it is a it really is one where, there is this tension in there, like as far as going too hard, too quick, or, trying to, I guess, watch for being too opinionated or too judgmental or too kind of quick to come to a conclusion, like, I mean, our own conclusions can determine our own boundaries, like if we assess a certain situation a certain way, that could be the very thing that sets up the blockage that we might be experiencing. Whereas, a little bit of a kind of a panned out attitude or a relaxed attitude, might just show the situation in a different light. And I guess that's the challenge with it, I imagine, because, if we look at the way out of this type of situation, it's about communicating. Like it's a very tight T square where Saturn's sitting with Mercury and Jupiter, but there's this really nice trine to Chiron. So it sort of says in Aries, so it sort of says this is about, validating ourselves rather than relying on the situation to validate us. So if we kind of jump to conclusions based on our own inner kind of hurts or our own inner, kind of self-perceptions, like, oh, people are like this, or that's the way it is, it always happens to me, or, I'm just trying to be noticed here and nobody's acknowledging me, or whatever. Like that's the type of stuff that can get us into a kerfuffle, whereas if you kind of just run your own gig, run your own show and sort of not rely too much on the environment going your way, to make you feel, validated, and you just sort of see yourself out sort of cutting your own path, doing your own thing in your own way, and not being so kind of tied up in the perceived outcome, then it turns more into a learning experience and an adventure rather than a kind of a proof of a preconceived notion that we might be carrying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just just not to have expectations are great, and we all love achieving results and that sense of achievement. But sometimes when we have it tie ourselves up to the expectation and things don't go our way or people don't act a certain way, then we that produces disappointment and other emotions that we none of us really need. So
that's right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, in many ways, like if you look at it as at a deeper, symbolic level, for the degree involved in this moon, like it's sort of, in a way, it's about transmuting emotional energy, like being able to transmute emotional energy on some level, like. And if I sort of feel into that, like if you look at Capricorn as an expression of mind, like, and if you look at emotional energy, it's more of a lunar quality, right? Like it's more, Saturn is structure, whereas we've got this emotional side of ourselves that, in many ways, if we're conforming too strictly or too tightly to a pre-established structure or way things should be, then there's this sort of unexpressed emotional energy that has to take place behind the scenes or somehow fit into this, structural view of the world. And, sometimes we get a bit disconnected between the day-to-day, Monday to Friday structure of our world, in relation to this lunar quality that we have, this emotional sort of rise and fall and our feelings and our needs and, our kind of, just what makes our cup full, like, and sometimes if we look at our structural life, that doesn't really contribute much or even have any kind of relationship really to our emotional life. So, in many ways, there's this disconnect going on there, which if you look at the way Mercury and Jupiter are behaving in this new moon, in many ways, it's seeking to bridge the gap between our emotional understanding of life and our structural understanding of life. So, I suppose in classical terms, it's the feminine and the masculine, or, there's our left and right brains or things like that. But to be able to allow for our emotional energy to find, an evolutionary style transmutation, if you like, sounds massive, but like to allow that emotional energy to take a new form in our life, or be able to express itself in a new way amidst the old structure of our life, that requires a bit of change. That requires a bit of a meltdown and a reformation, like energetically. And in many ways, I think this moon is aiming to kind of guide us towards that type of thing in some way. Not to say that we're going to have a big catharsis or anything, but it's just allowing a little bit of communication, I think, between what life means for us versus what we have to do in life. And sometimes, you know, just realizing why we're working rather than just working, kind of makes all the difference. Like, why are we doing all this? For what reason? Like, what is this all about? And that coming together of those two sides of us, doesn't often take place in such a fantastic way as what I think this new moon offers for us. And to sort of go a little bit further there's the symbol of the ninth degree is in a way it's overcoming, it's the sense of overcoming of fear in some way, like. And I know it's very quick to go, oh wow, it's just the fear talking, or here's the blockage of fear. You hear a lot of people say, oh, your life's not going anywhere because of your fear. But no, that's not what I'm saying. It's this ability to not necessarily overcome fear, but look at fear as an obstacle and go, well, really, if I relax and soften to that, because the energy of Saturn is, you could say, is the energy that we call fear. And because it's just structural, it kind of locks us up, and we go, oh, it's fixative, it fixes us. But if we soften and sort of move more into trusting and sort of relaxing into the process that little bit more, and sort of assuming a position of harmlessness, so to speak, like where it's quite harmless. Or say, if you look at feeding a wild bird, at the seaside or something, there's that relaxedness where the bird picks up on what you're doing and you can feed it, and there's this exchange between yourself and the wild nature of things that is built around just this acceptance of neither one being harmless to the other. And in that, I think in that space, if we can just assume a sense of harmlessness to things or in relation to things, it might soften us enough to, just feel that little bit more into life, and allow perceived challenges or perceived obstacles to relax a little bit, so we can feel a little bit of the why we're doing it rather than the, why.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and it's so true, Martin. Like, and that softening, I think we're even moving into next year. The
yeah,
last few years have been quite challenging, so we've sort of mentally and
yeah,
in other ways as well, just almost become hardened to our
yeah,
surroundings, and attached ourselves to everything that's going around, and we've sort of.
yeah,
Not everybody, or any not in any definitive way, but just in many ways we've
mm,
sort of lost that, or lost that momentum of being able to look internally, and look at life and look at other people, look at circumstances in a softer, more harmless
yeah,
way, like you were talking about. And life,
absolutely. Yeah,
when it comes to fear, it does cause that fight or flight, that procrastination, that freeze,
yeah,
and yeah, to be able to move forward in a nice softer manner, without that expectation, and without,
yeah,
because yeah, part of that expectation is, like you said, oh, what's going to go wrong? So you're looking out
mm,
for things that might not go your way, and you're almost
absolutely.
fighting against something that doesn't exist or may not happen. And
Yeah, exactly,
uh,
Billy. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, Pluto's been in Capricorn, which is Saturn's sign, and it's sort of the flavor of this new moon's Capricorn. But like, Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. So, it's been survival at that level, like, I mean, it's been really hardcore, like we've had this really seriously full-on drive of will and power around rigidity and structure. Yeah, like we've been in this, very hardcore Capricornian matrix for a long time now, and now that's moving into Aquarius. It should lighten up and move away from the fixation of Earth and move more into the sort of communicability of air and the exchange of air, and just a lot lighter, Billy, a lot lighter. And I mean, these are probably the processes to move us into that, new realization, I guess,
it's
in a
beautiful,
way.
and I love the,
Yeah,
the dates. I mean, we're literally coming to the end of the year, so it's a culmination of not just this year, but like you say, many years of that rigidness and challenges. And we are. It feels like we're moving into a
Yep.
softer, and we can only move forward if we rediscover, if we've lost it, that softer side of ourselves and our internal thinking.
That's right.
Even going back to how we thought and felt about life as children, that innocence and that softness and that trust, and it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to, but you can still that shouldn't stop you or disallow you from moving forward. Yeah.
That's right. Yep, absolutely. And being able to sort of transmute that intensity into something a little bit more refined again, a bit lighter, and find a way of expressing it, or find a way of kind of relating that energy. Like, we can't just sort of move from one to another. Like, we've got to express it somehow. We've got to find a way of integrating it, find a way of sort of putting it into context. Like, I mean, gosh, even just think of the last, since 2020 till now, like how much, I think we talked about this last time, like how much unprocessed stuff is going on in the collective unconscious around injustice, around tyranny, around control, around structural power, all those types of things. It's all there. It doesn't just go away. Like, I mean, it's gonna start to find expression. It's gonna start to find balance. It's gonna start to find justice. It has to, even just the way that the structural mind of society has been built and poised and biased and all those types of things. The energetic consequences of Pluto and Capricorn are yet to be truly expressed. So, like, I mean, this is what we move into as the energy changes. But I mean, it's going to be very interesting. But on an individual level, there's this sense of somehow trying to transmute the heavy, intensity into some sort of refined, delicate sense of feeling that can be conveyed, without aggression, but yet with expression. So it's just tricky times. We have to be kind to ourselves. We have to just sort of, allow for these things to take place, because I think we're all going through it. Like, I mean, this is all new for all of us. None of us have lived here and now before, but yet we're all here to live it here and now for a reason. So, like, to sort of participate in it consciously and participate in it and knowingly sort of, kind of proactively bring something to it from our own perspective is what's required, I guess, too, Billy. It's that type of
100%, yeah. And there's always that opportunity with all these challenges that we've all been that have been globally and in our own lives. Just the opportunity is always there to learn and to grow and to expand and to improve how we look upon our lives and reflect. And I was going to say where this time feels like it's a reset of sorts, but that not to necessarily reset, stop for a few days and then get going again based on your old mindset. Take that time to really reflect and make some minor or major changes to then move forward, having that softer and I personally find when I'm in that mindset and I have that awareness that the world around me seems to soften up as well. You've still got to be careful and still got to be aware and so you can't just walk with your blindfolds on, but at the same time they say that the people around us, and I use people as an example, are reflective of how we're feeling and the energies and frequencies that we're putting out. So by us being softer, by us being gentler on ourselves, I find personally that seems to reflect for all our experiences. Yeah.
Absolutely, Billy. And I mean, in saying that too, like, with Neptune in its final stages of being in Pisces, like, projections at an all-time high, so, it's very easy to get caught up in projection. It's very easy to pick up on stuff that's not yours, or other people pick up on stuff that's not yours but think it's yours, and you're projecting it on them or whatever. But like, that sort of refined delicacy of things and sort of almost assuming a position of harmlessness, to the environment, in many ways can possibly serve to counter projections. And it's just being aware that there's this real almost transference, really strong transference that's possible at the moment with this placement of Neptune. So just being aware of that is really important too. I would stress. So and in that too, that it's probably it's a great tool for compassion, though. If people can project their stuff, we can also be aware of the stuff and just be aware of what's out there and what's happening, and see it for what it is, rather than embodying it or feeling that we have to react to it or whatever. But I think I wrote, I was looking at something before, but it's absurd. We're in an absurd times. I suppose if you approach life with a little bit of a humorous take on absurdity, I think you'll be fine at this time. Yeah, it's a bit like that. Yeah,
yeah. The old way,
fully.
the old way of rationale of what we thought, what things should happen this way, might not happen that way, and that doesn't mean it's wrong. It could be a complete new world that we're moving into. Yeah, which is exciting, I find. Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's crazy town, really. On one level, it's crazy town. And the lunatics are finally in charge of the asylum. It's all go. But at the same time, it's immensely creative. I suppose if you look even just from a Saturn point of view, last time Saturn was here in Pisces was mid 90s, sort of around that time. So we had, we're sort of, if we go back in time, this is when Nirvana hit the scene and grunge was born, and we had this enormous eruption of expression of untrammeled rage against a kind of a sense of disorientation and loss, and inexplicable ability to sort of cohesively align ourselves with anything. And so in a way, Saturn in Pisces is that. And so we're in a similar time where the world is absurd, and we're on some level we're all a little bit lost in it, but at the same time a bit peeved off about it, and we don't really quite know how our shape is taking place or what shapes are taking place. And so in that, it does call for I feel a lot of self-discipline, self-responsibility, self-awareness, I guess, and consciousness to kind of to get through it. But again, enormously creative energy. It's like this enormous amount of emotional pressure, that's there, that just needs to be extruded into some sort of form, and so the forms are ours for the making, whether it be, artistic works, creations, whatever we want to do, that energy is there to reshape the new world, and not to hopefully get lost or caught up in a kind of a neurosis of it, rather than a creative expression of it. You know what I mean? It's that type of vibe.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you say, and to find that joy and that bringing back to that childhood mindset is just think of life, and kids find joy in the simplest things, and as we get into our adult years and go to work and get families and do all that sort of stuff, we can sort of lose our way a little bit there. So this is the perfect time, by the sounds of it, that to rediscover that. And life is joyous, and get creative, use that energy that's upon us right now to go and do that abstract art, or it doesn't have to look perfect. So, that whole definition, or that perception that we can't move forward unless things happen at the absolute way that we expect it to. Let loose, let go. It's an open canvas, blank canvas.
That's it. Give it space, let it flow, and then allow it to take form, rather than sort of be lost in the form that we're trying to stay with or stay adhered to, because that form is dissolving. That form isn't there anymore. I don't know, my memory's a bit sketchy, but I think the world pre-Nirvana versus the world post-Nirvana was a very different world. I'm just using that as an example, but just that sort of revolutionary energy of the 90s from an expression point of view we're back in that sort of vibe again, and new forms are about to take place. New forms are wanting to come forward. So yeah, that this is, I think, in many ways, if you even just look at this new moon, it's sort of setting the scene for the inspiration for those types of expressions too. In a way, if we see the potential. Yeah,
Absolutely. And
yeah,
I'm trying to quickly do my maths here, Martin. So you're saying we're sort of going through what was around the mid 90s. So would it be fair to say it
yeah,
was around the one before that was the sort of 60s? So even though I wasn't alive then,
yeah, yeah.
historically, a lot of that 50s, 60s revolutions and flower
Yep,
power and
that's
just,
it.
yeah,
Yep, drugs
that's what
and
yeah.
yep, absolutely. I mean, Pisces rules psychedelics and all that type of thing. So you're right, yeah, around that time, and like people were tuning in, dropping out. That Saturn was the authority or the system, and Neptune is Pisces is psychedelics. So, like, I mean, in another way, yeah, the '60s and Woodstock and all that was another representation of Saturn in Pisces. So it's that type of vibe. Like it really is. So yeah, and we're back there just from a Saturn perspective. Like, this 28-year cycle, goes around and round and round, and at the moment it's in Pisces, and it will be for pretty much we're about halfway through it, so at least another year or so we've got Saturn in Pisces. And I mean, speaking of Pisces too, like, this is the bigger thing that we're heading into. Like, we're not only, does Neptune move, Neptune is in the last stage of Pisces, but it's about to change signs. So we're going to get this enormous shift along the lines of this Piscean energy from Pisces into Aries. But more bigger to that, sorry, next year, the nodal axis moves into Pisces. So, on top of this Saturn in Pisces, we're going to get a nodal shift. And the nodal axis is basically there's this 19-year cycle where the node of the moon, which is basically just an imaginary point that describes the relationship between the sun and the moon's orbit, sort of thing, and it sort of moves backwards through the signs of the zodiac on around about a 19-year cycle. So for the last 18 months, the North Node has been in Aries. And so, we've had this very strong emphasis on, I guess, ourself, who we are as ourself, and in relation to Libran energy, which is the polarity to others. So, if you look at the collective focus over the last 18 months, it's had a lot to do with self versus other, energetically. So if we look at our lives on a very subtle level, our interface to the collective consciousness has been around, assertiveness, self-definition, that type of thing, which is interesting because the backdrop to that has been, Saturn in Pisces. So, when you're not allowed to be anyone, or the whole idea of anything, all these new titles and names and definitions, like, identity itself, which is an Aries phenomena, has been very, morphed, with structural Saturn in the sign of Pisces. So there's been this real play out around, who am I? How do I identify? All that type of thing over the last 18 months specifically. But now that's going to move into Pisces. So Pisces is, quite, as we know, it's dissolving. It's very spiritual. It's very creative. It's the vibe. It's the big picture. It's unity. So we move from a very self focus to a sort of a dissolved collective spiritual unity focus. So, in a way, as we move into the sign of Pisces on a collective level, the Virgo Pisces axis kicks in, and we sort of get this lessons kind of that we need to learn are around, I guess, surrender and surrendering control, or trusting the flow. Pisces is very go with the flow. It's sort of all about compassion and love and understanding. It's connecting with our inner spirituality. I suppose it's about creativity and freedom of creativity, freedom of self-expression. I guess connecting more deeply, with our emotional self, and that's all got to sort of take place in contrast to this Virgoan energy, which is all about, I guess, analysis being, over analytical or over critical, or, kind of too precise, or too kind of ordered and methodical at the cost of, flow and the bigger picture. So, sort of watching for, I guess, yeah, sort of being too pedantic in the face of being too obtuse. So it's really sort of finding that balance between an ordered creative self-expression, but also allowing for that self-expression to be fed by, more of a divine, open, spiritual, unified understanding. So, in many ways, this is where we're going to get the opportunity, if we've hopefully found that relationship in the last 18 months of who we are. This is now looking at, well, how can that, person, or that self, with its newfound understanding of relationship with other, how can then that be expressed in service, or how can that be brought into, realization of our skills or our abilities, and develop a greater understanding of human compassion, and I guess meaning and purpose, to apply that self in a context of service, or, devotion to the greater whole, if that makes sense. Yeah, so
Oh,
that's a big
100%.
shift. Yeah, it's a big shift we're
That's
going
amazing you
through.
say that, Martin, because the last little while, the more and more people that I'm listening to, talking to in person, talking about service to others, and
Yeah,
that deep resonance that they have with that, moving away from that, it's not
yeah,
about me. What can I do to serve the people around me, to serve the community, to serve, if you've got the big picture globally.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
so that self reflection, but you can only do that, like you said, if you have that relationship with yourself and you're comfortable,
yep,
you're at ease, and removing all that who you think you are and all that identity stuff
yep,
that we've got caught up in, and just
that's it.
focus on the service to others. There definitely seems to be a shift there.
Yep,
And I see that personally as a real positive. Like you say,
yep,
the more compassion, the more empathy for others, the more unity, the more community based mindset,
yep,
as opposed to, well, what's in it for me?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yep.
So
I agree.
there definitely seems to be, from my communications and different various conversations, there seems to be that real shift. So that what you just said, that just fits perfectly, I think.
Yeah, no, thanks, Billy. Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, I really resonate with what you're saying too. Like that's the vibe, and it's good you're seeing that too. Like it's very early days, but like, I mean, that's the movement. Like we're right at that last degree now of in Aries. So, we're sort of really at that. And because it is a backward process, it's ironic. We've come from being completely almost ego orientated at the beginning of the nodal work through Aries, and over time, in relation through the relationship to others, the more we reinvent ourselves, or the more we let go of I guess, ego forms in favor of true self, the more we find new expression and meaning in our relationships, and maybe in doing so reinvent a few relationships, or move past a few old ones that might have been built on old ego structured expressions rather than true self-expression. And now that we get to that hopefully, like a true anchor point of ourself, then it goes into Pisces, which, it's letting go of that notion of self, in for the sake of service, for the sake of what abilities do we have, what skills do we have to offer, and how can we be of service? Because by now we are comfortable, hopefully, by the process, we're comfortable with ourself, and we find we have our right expression of self in relation to others, so we can now be truly of value for service, but also to be able to find the meaningful, connection to what that service represents, as a greater expression of, a more, I guess, a more divine, approach to life. Hopefully,
Oh,
that's the
absolutely,
goal.
and
Yeah,
I feel as well, Martin, that it's going to allow us, or it's already happening now, from what I can sense, that we're able to, by not being, and I don't mean this derogatively, but so self involved, we're actually connecting with others in a lot more effectively, whether that's just communicating verbally, energetically, or their frequency. So we're starting to see and meet people halfway, and not react so harshly to what they say, or how they act towards us, or not even towards us, but in general, and see the real then, just to start. And I was talking to a few people yesterday about that vulnerability as a strength. And there's, it's a bit of a men. There was both males and females there, but just a little conversation I had with a few of the guys, that we're actually feeling really good as males, and it's not a male female thing, but just being able to express ourselves now, and the more we see each other doing it, the more we can actually be ourselves, because we're just opening our hearts. We're opening, all the barriers are going. They're breaking down before our eyes, and we're actually seeing the real self within, and also the other people. So the connection is at such a much stronger and deeper level than ever before. So, and it feels like it's only the beginning. Like you said, it's just expanding all the time.
Absolutely. I love that, Billy. Like it's great to hear that. Like, I mean, that's in a part, as you're saying that too, I'm sort of thinking, well, this is, the Chiron's transit through Aries, it's bringing this great healing, since even going back probably 2 or 3 years, it's sort of since it started moving into Aries, like it's this healing around the masculine, the healing around that Martian energy, like it's sort of, not just from a male point of view, but just the masculine itself, like the right use of assertiveness, or the right use of action, or just that energy of being able to stand in active purpose, or active expression, or just any kind of masculine energy. All the things around that are being brought into a healing perspective, because I guess from a social level, there's so much damage on that level, from times gone by, that need to be brought up and healed and rectified and rebalanced and reorientated, just from a purely masculine point of view, like not just males, but the masculine, so it's really good that that's starting to find its expression. And one of the areas that can obviously be expressed and healed, and it's great you're feeling, because I'm feeling that too, it's just amongst males, again, in their own expression of that place in orientation to that masculine expression, as well as the feminine, because in many ways it's the deepening of the feminine that gives greater understanding and expression of the masculine. So, and obviously, that's fabulous. I love it, Billy. I love it. Yeah, it's good to hear. That's cool.
And again, I say this quite often to you in these podcasts, that just how incredible, and you say it all the time, that astrology it's about potentials, and about what could happen.
Sorry, Billy.
No, that's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, all good. Cool. About potentials.
So just amazing. I find, Martin, with, like you say, with astrology, it's about potentials. It's nothing set in stone, but it's about just being able to express ourselves, and being able to. And I did lose my chain of thought there, so I'll let it.
No, that's okay. No, but it is nothing set in stone. Like it's as they say, the stars impel, they don't compel. So the energetics get raised, and it's all a process of evolution. So it's how we respond, who we are when it happens, and how we stand in the energy, how we run with it, our orientation. Like everything's happening now and being reinvented now. And so, like, it's not like we have to wait for something to happen. It's happening, so that's the thing. It's how do we stand in the energy? How do we respond to the energy? Sometimes that's just understanding the energy, understanding it better, and then that can inform our choices. So, like, in many ways, astrology is just a beautiful way, a language that really describes, for me, the creative process. Like, it is the process of creation, and evolution is kind of explained energetically in terms of the symbols of astrology. But like it really is, it's fabulous. And we're active participants in that because we have this magical thing called an imagination and a consciousness. And that's essentially driven from our heart space. And so it's we're creators. It's fabulous. Yeah.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
it just brings so much joy to watch that unfold the way it does, and
Yeah.
that parity between what you say, with the astrology and all the influences of the stars, planets, etc., and the subtleties there and the energies, how that actually plays out in our lives, on a day-to-day, moment by
Yeah.
moment basis, when we have that awareness. And just it's exciting. I love it. I get uplifted by we are part of the universe, we are part of the galactic sphere, and
Yep.
we have our role to play. So yes, we are minuscule.
Absolutely.
We're only minor little player,
Yep.
but we are part of it. We're one of the bouncing
Absolutely.
balls, all swirling around. And
That's it. Yeah, and we're interconnected, and like we are. Yeah, I think with Pluto now moving into Aquarius, we're going to start to really realize the quantum nature of our energetic experience in this life. Like, I mean, it is all frequency and vibration essentially. Like, and wherever we see ourselves in that, or however we interface with that, is all on the level of mind. And like it really, we are shifting out of that Earth-based 300-year cycle, and yeah, we're moving into a more subtle, energetic, air-based, I guess, period of 300 years. So we're at very early stages where, even at this very fundamental level, we're already starting to realize that we can transcend, literally transcend the physical, in a way. Obviously we're still physically anchored, but at the same time too, it's realizing that our physicality, in many ways is part of our existence rather than the sum total of our existence. And that's where you start to see start to become cognizant of the different planes and different elements and things like that. But like it does get a bit polluted, but like essentially, yeah, like we're a far more, humanity, or the human mind is a far more spectacular vessel than we may give it credit for, let's say.
exactly, yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
the science is starting to agree with what with the quantum mechanics and the quantum
Mm.
healings, and a lot of the
Yep.
science and the spirituality, or us as humans. There's a lot more deeper understanding of who we are, and
Yep.
what our potentials are. That just
Absolutely.
gives me goosebumps of how
Yeah.
excited, and our potentials, and how expansive. And it does feel like we're just starting. Yeah, we're not.
Oh,
So everything that's come in the past has taught us lessons and shown us the way, and we've all been the best version of ourselves that we can be.
oh,
But then moving forward, it's unlimitless, the possibilities.
that's
So, and the
absolutely,
potentials.
Billy. Like, and I mean, even what you're saying there, like the vibration, that we're talking about here now, like, I mean, just to go a little bit into next year, like next year we've got, the big outers, like, so Neptune, Uranus, or Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, like they're all changing signs next year, and even Saturn later in the year will join them as well, and Jupiter as well. Like there's sort of quite a bit of action next year as far as big shifts in the collective energetics at work, kind of thing. But interestingly, the three big outers, like Uranus is moving into Gemini next year, so it moves out of Taurus, which is, again, that's a very material sort of world association, and it's moving into Gemini. So that's an enormously, Uranus itself is mental anyway, like it's a very mental energy, and it's moving into the sign of Gemini, which is, again, very mental and very fast and very active. So just on that level alone, like there's this enormous surge of electrical, I guess, frequency based energy coming in next year, just through that shift alone. And then on top of that, we've got Neptune moving into Aries. So it's moving out of this sort of dense, formless, watery realm into Aries, which is fire. And, the element of fire is very yang, it's very active, it's very expansive, very creative. It's fire energy. So moving from a deep, watery, emotional field into a very creative fire field. And Pluto as well is already moved into Aquarius. So it's moved out of this dense Earth Capricornian reality into a very sort of new age, kind of, I guess, electrical, mental, air type innovative, kind of Uranian vibration too. And interestingly, when they all do that, they'll all be at the same degree. They'll all be at very slow moving 1-2 degrees of their signs. So they all hook up in this enormously powerfully charged, positive, sextile type relationship to one another, all in this light, air, and fire energy. So, like, just the shift in energetic alone, and the feed that they will put into each other for 2025, like, we're if you're starting to tingle now, like, I mean, you wait till sort of April, May next year when these planets start to lock in, like, and we're going to really start to see some very, very appreciable shifts in human consciousness and expression and the way things go. I wouldn't even be surprised if new energy technologies get released, or new breakthroughs start to happen that completely redefine how we see life and how we approach our whole evolutionary participation in it all. Like, I mean, I know it's I wouldn't even rule out aliens landing. Like, I mean, it's big. Like, we're gonna be sort of faced with a very exciting, energizing paradigm shift, and like it's really cool, and it's stuff that we haven't had before. Like, we haven't experienced this, and like, so it's very even by orb, like, you can start to feel it now. Like, Neptune's getting very close to Pisces, but they're in mixed signs, so you've got this lovely Pluto Aquarius vibration, frequency and vibration sort of humming away there. But meanwhile, Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, in this deep emotional realm, is connecting with it, but they can't relate to one another. Like, emotion and mentality are sort of at odds. But like, next year they're going to hook up and they're going to get it and they're going to connect. So, at first we'll probably get a bit of uncertainty as the mixture of elements don't match. But we know in ourselves, deep down, we know something's coming, but we can't quite put our finger on it. That's because they're all hooking up by orb, but they're not quite in the same language yet, but that's coming more and more as the year pans out. So that's very exciting too.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
That's very, very exciting times ahead, and that divine alignment that you're talking about, mid next year, is going to be
absolutely
just brilliant to watch that all unfold. And
absolutely.
bring on the aliens and the ETs if they
that's what I mean.
they feel the need to visit us.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first, man. There's going to be aliens. No, I mean, gosh, what kind of astrologer would I be without mentioning aliens?
Well, that's right. Yeah. But the point is that maybe our minds don't sort of can't grasp that concept that could even happen. But the possibilities that are going to happen next year and the potentials are just things that we probably can't even envisage at the moment.
That's it. Yeah, like the realization. The realization of, the science of mind will be far more commonplace. Like, I mean, it will, again, we'll start to, even just the word science, like, I mean, rather than corporate sort of support mechanism that it currently is, we might actually start to see science again. Like, we might start to see, actual discoveries rather than just proof of concept for money-making schemes. Like, I mean, this is the shift that will start to take place, and that's not to criticize all science, but like, I'm just saying that the current paradigm that we call science, is probably clouded by a bit of a corporate sort of gain mechanism, and real science is probably being stifled or curtailed under it. But I don't think there'll be much of a means of stopping it as this new energy kind of comes forward. So it is exciting
What
in that way.
what's exciting for me, Martin, is that there's more and more people that I'm listening to have the intellect, have that brain that can figure out quantum mechanics, for example,
Yep.
but have that emotional and spiritual awareness. So for these
Yep.
people, moving into the field of science is just going to turn it upside down, I feel.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing is too, like if you look at historically, like, going back to 94, when Saturn was here last time, there was a whole bunch of, kiddies coming through being born around then. And we had, even in all of us that were alive then, there was this conjunction that took place between Uranus and Neptune back then in Capricorn. So the ground has very much been laid for this merger between intellect and Uranian technology and the heart space and the compassion of spirit and the divine. And in Capricorn too, which is reality and mind. So this synthesis that was laid down in the early 90s, which sort of coincided with the birth of the internet, if you like, sort of this technological age that we find ourselves in now, the roots were sown then. So we've got the potential now emerging in the new generation, and also too in the aftermath of Pluto moving back over that territory where that conjunction took place, of this real merger of feeling intelligence and feeling mind, a deeper inspired scientific spirituality. Like, it's this synthesis now taking place where we can connect the abstract with the actual mental. And so, like, where the quantum leap is ready, in many ways ready to be made. And it's signatures like we're entering into that's just going to activate all that. And interestingly, those kids born, in the early to mid 90s, they're all just past their Saturn return now. They're all coming into their expression. And like, we're going to start seeing some of this fusion find its place in the world, and it'll be very interesting to watch. It'll be very interesting to experience. Yeah.
Absolutely, and there'll be a large portion of those scientists and people sort of bringing in these revolutionary ideas and concepts that were born in that time, and
Yeah.
it seems that they were born at that perfect time to be here and now and ready to go.
That's it. Yeah. And I mean, in every field, not just science, but like this real
No,
merger of frequency based, understanding with real, deep, compassionate, almost poetic heart space, merging together. Whereas, before that there was this separation, so like, I mean, if in a way alchemy is about to walk the earth, like, I mean, it's we're in this fusion of feeling intelligence, where intellect and heart find a space in the room together, get along, like it's, and that's going to revolutionize the way we are, because I mean, for a lot of people who are operating like that anyway, it's going to be welcome relief, like
yes.
where you start to go, thank God, like, thank goodness that there's this space now being created for synthesis between the two. And we might actually get a chance at a world that you know starts to recognize the power in both, and how they can operate together as well. So it's hopeful times.
Oh, definitely. And for those who maybe are feeling a little bit lost and not quite aligned with where the world's going, and don't know what's happening, I hope today's an important message to be encouraged and to be enthusiastic about where we're heading, because everything you said there, Martin, I know there's all sorts of potentials and possibilities, but it feels like a real positive positive change, and
Absolutely.
not change, temporary change. It's going to change humanity.
Absolutely.
It's that
Yeah.
massive. Yep.
And I mean, I'd say, like you say, Billy, there, like, I mean, if you're watching today, like, I mean, this is almost, let this even be a call to participate. Like, I mean, you've got, everybody's got their, trust me, from an astrologer's point of view, you look at every single chart of every single person, and there's no one that is in any way, shape, or form the same. And like, so everybody has got their gig. Everyone's got their unique bit of magic that you've got to bring into the world. And now's the time to just hook in, get amongst it. Like, there's nothing. I think the word weird is going to be completely redefined shortly to mean something like those stepping into and standing in their own true individual grace. Like, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, there's no weird anymore. There's just a bunch of really inspired individuals here to create something unique, and that's a good thing.
That's the beauty of it. And then
Yeah.
moving from that individual concept that we've all got our own fingerprints. We've all every
Yep.
snowflake's made different, but it forms the oneness that we're
Yeah.
moving into. That I can feel that really deeply, that we are moving into
Absolutely.
that. So that touches my heart. I think we might, if you haven't got anything else to add, Martin, I just want to finish it there because I think
Yep. I'm
that's
good with that, Billy.
such a
Yep.
positive note, and I'm so excited for our future as humanity. But just where we're heading next year,
Absolutely.
it's going to be
Yep.
it's just going to be brilliant just to watch it unfold. And
Oh yeah. Strap in. Strap in. Yeah. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. And I mean, thanks. Yeah, I was going to say thanks for having us, Billy. And I mean, just on that, before I forget, just I wish everyone a fabulous festive season, however you celebrate it in whatever way. And I wish everyone all the best. And thanks for watching. Yeah,
thanks so much, Martin. I was going to say likewise, and thanks for everyone for watching, and thank you, Martin. Like, you've been a big supporter of mine from day dot. Very encouraging and supportive, and I love our conversations, and may that long continue. Again, I'll echo what Martin said. I hope everyone has a wonderful festive season and take the time to enjoy, and let's rock it into 2025 and see where it all goes.
sounds like a plan, Billy. Sounds like a plan.
Excellent.
Awesome.
All right, and
Thanks,
I'll
mate.
put your link on here as well for anyone wanting to reach out to Martin for any astrological readings, and there's plenty that you offer as well. So
Fabulous. Yep.
some
Thank you,
brilliant
Billy.
stuff
Yeah,
there.
just check out our website and drop us a line on Facebook, and check out our Facebook page and our Insta page and all that type of thing. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thanks for that, Billy.
No problem at all,
Sure.
my good friend. Thank you very much, Martin, and we'll talk to you
Yep.
soon. All right.
Thanks, Billy.